thank you to everybody who registered or anyone who's watching this on delay for coming along. Great to have you here. I suppose as a little bit of housekeeping whilst people are joining, we've got 45 minutes today. We'll try to cover off a lot of the key details around both G-Accon and Mayday, and how Anita and Jonathan have leveraged these tools for their month-end processes. And I suppose beyond that, we're really keen to get your own questions answered. So take advantage of the Q&A section in Zoom or the chat. Ideally the Q&A section, so that we can answer them properly and formally. So yeah, as we're talking today, as we cover things, if there's anything that we don't mention that's relevant to you, please feel free to jump into the Q&A section, add your own questions, and we'll be sure to answer those as well. Cool. All right. Well, given we've got a few people here and we don't want to waste any of your time, let's get cracking. And I'm sure any late stragglers will just join us and jump into the conversation as we go. So yeah, feel free to listen in, ask questions as we go, and yeah, hopefully we can make this a nice, valuable session for you today. So I guess first and foremost, thank you for coming. Really excited for the discussion. Some phenomenal guest speakers joining us today with some brilliant use cases and stories to share around how they've implemented both Mayday and G-Accon in their own businesses and with their own clients. So first and foremost, though, I'll just introduce myself before handing over to them to introduce themselves. My name's Jack Thiel. I am the APAC commercial lead at Mayday. We're on a mission to mend month-end for larger Xero businesses, beginning with the needs of those who are multi-entity. So we're talking about intercompany recharges, cross-entity bank reconciliations, and keeping intercompany loans in balance. These are all things that Mayday solves today. And I'm joined by the amazing Sonia from G-Accon, and we're both really looking forward to talking with Jonathan and Anita today, who are bringing their own real-life experiences with Mayday and G-Accon to the table. So I might pause here and let our panel introduce themselves. Sonia, I might actually hand to you first to introduce yourself and provide anything else from a G-Accon perspective.
Sure thing. Yep. Thank you, Jack. Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia. I'm the Client Success Director with G-Accon. Echoing Jack's thoughts there. Thank you all for coming and taking your time to be a part of this. So G-Accon, we're an accounting integration software. We integrate Xero with Google Sheets directly. Just looking to streamline your accounting processes against not only one entity, but multiple organizations as well, running those accounts and automating those processes for you. Like Jack said, really excited to be talking with the panelists here today, Anita and Jonathan. And again, thank you all for your time and tuning in.
Awesome. Thanks, Sonia. Jonathan, I might hand over to you first. So yeah, just a quick introduction.
Sure. I'm the CFO for a transport and logistics group in Australia. I've been in that role now for about 4 years. And we've relatively recently, with Jack's help, rolled out Mayday to assist us with all of the above, from bank recs right through to end-of-month process.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. Anita?
Hi, my name's Anita. I'm the principal at Aretex. I've been using G-Accon for quite a few years. I'm not actually sure how many. Also, I use it for a range of time-saving tasks, also assisting in intercompany reconciliations, general reports, frequent reports that we need. And yeah, we have a bookkeeping and data management business. So we need to extract all different types of data from different industries for different purposes, everything from stock to AP, AR, as well as job costing in construction.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thanks, Anita. Thanks, Jonathan, for joining us. Very keen to kind of delve a little bit deeper into your own processes, what led you to this point of using these tools, and what the impact has been. I guess as a final part from my end, just to set the scene a little bit more for the conversation today, if you're all listening in as Xero users, obviously both G-Accon and Mayday work with Xero. Over the past 10, 15 years, I've been involved from an accounting perspective, now in software. I've been on both sides of this, but over the last 10, 15 years, Xero has come a long way. So along with that, the millions of businesses that use Xero have come a long way. And so what were simple small businesses signing up to a small accounting software platform are now becoming larger, more complex, multi-entity, multinational organizations that have more nuanced accounting and reporting needs. But one of the strengths of Xero has always been its ecosystem and its support for the ecosystem, its willingness to open up its API for other apps and add-ons to come in and solve those unique challenges that businesses have as they grow up. So the gap between Xero and ERPs has closed massively, with Xero plus its ecosystem really providing a solution for large multi-entity businesses. So yeah, really glad to be here today covering off on what has historically been a challenge for Xero businesses, but isn't anymore, which is the automation of multi-entity month-end. So really thrilled to be here representing Mayday, having this discussion on what automating multi-entity month-end actually looks like in reality when you leverage the power of the Xero ecosystem. So I might begin. This is kind of our agenda today. So number one is the challenges of multi-entity month-end. What were the things that were causing issues or problems for both Anita and Jonathan in their businesses and clients' businesses, respectively? What was life like after they implemented new systems and software there? And then both Sonia and I will give a quick demo of what Mayday and G-Accon can do so that you can leave to know a little bit more, leave knowing a little bit more about us, but also know whether or not you want to check out a full demo of the suites. So let's get into it. Jonathan, I might begin with you if I can. So if we think about month-end processes, we think about multi-entity challenges. Can you walk us through what your process was pre-Mayday here with respect to kind of the core points, pain points, whatever it was that led you to change?
Sure. I mean, the problem we have is for a whole variety of reasons that make a lot of sense in the taxation environment, the regulatory environment. Our business is divided up into multiple entities, but they're not distinct units in the sense that we've got different trading areas and a different entity to cover each. For us, they're more divided along the lines of business function. So we have entities that employ the staff. We have entities that own the assets. We have entities that carry out the trading activity. And the intercompany transactions for those entities are obviously quite involved with passing through employment costs, whether it's higher charges for the use of the assets by the trading entities. And then we have a centralized admin. So a lot of the overheads are also then getting billed out to the other entities in the group. It just resulted in an enormous amount of double handling, I felt, where we're calculating all the numbers in one entity. We're then entering either tax invoices, we're entering standing journals, things of that nature. We then go to the other entity and we just enter effectively the same information all over again. And we end up with, having done all of that double handling, then having to manually reconcile the intercompany loan accounts to make sure nobody's made a mistake anywhere. So a solution that could streamline all of that was something that when I came across Mayday, that was something I jumped at.
So I suppose, I mean, to that point, what was double handling, I suppose, is a time-consuming process as kind of a starting point, and then you add the element of risk there. What was it purely an efficiency thing? How did you kind of weigh up, that it was time to focus on this? I appreciate as a CFO, you've probably got a number of projects or a number of problems or challenges at any given point in time. So how did this become a priority to solve?
Yeah, well, you're right. There's a million things you're trying to do at once. And one lesson I've learned is every now and then it's a good idea to have a day doing the job your people are doing, because often there will be incredible inefficiencies in the way things are done, but nobody says anything. And so I think one of our accountants was away. I was entering debtor receipts. And this was one of the trigger points for me with Mayday, was not just the end of month journals and invoices that we were entering, but all the other stuff it can help with as well. So not so much our debtor invoices, but definitely our debtor payments a very significant number of our debtors will pay into the wrong bank account, in the sense that they're just paying Snape's, our company. They're not paying Snape's in Victoria or another state or whatever the case may be. We've then got to attempt to reconcile manually across multiple entities which invoices are they paying and have they paid the right amount. We've then got to, do effectively a double entry in Xero in one entity to put the, pay off that entity's invoices, divert the rest into an intercompany loan account, and then go and duplicate the other half of the entry in the other entity. Being able to handle all of that through Mayday in the bank rec process was just a dream come true for me, and made an enormous difference to how quickly you could get that stuff processed. The other thing was, I guess, ease of implementation. The biggest successes I've had in bringing new systems and productivity gain into our business has been where there isn't a need for a long involved project to scope out a software package and install it. And so Mayday was one that ticked the boxes for me, in that sign up online, subscribe to it through the Xero App Store, enroll our entities, tag which accounts to use for the intercompany transactions, and off we went. And that was it. It was pretty much an overnight success for us with an immediate benefit. So bit of a no-brainer. The other thing was we downsized in staff. And so I was actively looking for how can we be more efficient? And that was kind of what pushed me to look in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting what that trigger point is. I often find it's someone new to a role, or as you said, someone stepping away from a role and then having to find efficiencies. But to get people out of the day-to-day of saying, this is my job, this is just how it is, to, hey, maybe there's a better way of doing this, is always an interesting challenge. Anita, I might throw to you now, and Sonia, feel free to jump in if you've got any follow-up questions, because I know, Anita, from your side, your experience is from a G-Accon perspective. So, I mean, when you think multi-entity month end within the clients that you work with, what was the process for you or for them pre-G-Accon? I appreciate you've been working with them for a while. And what was the pain, the impact of that pain, and then the resulting why we needed to put G-Accon in place?
A lot of the businesses I worked with had grown quite aggressively and didn't want to move to ERP and wanted to stay using Xero because they had a lot of entities. And this is up to like 100. So when I'm talking about a lot of entities and the time saving, a lot of their reporting was also in Excel. So to get, to be able to press a button and get multiple P&Ls into Excel doesn't really happen that quick with downloading in Xero. I mean, and there was the option to download to Google Sheets as well, but still it's going into every file. And by the time you've downloaded all of those P&Ls, it's already outdated. So when I did stumble across G-Accon, I'm not sure how long ago it was, but it saved, I mean, just downloading P&Ls for, I think, like 40 Xero files can take a long time. And depending on what the date ranges were, this is just to get it straight out of Xero. It was just not efficient at all. So it would take like a full day, and then the data's outdated. So when I did start using G-Accon was to extract balance sheets and P&Ls for last month end for and the 11 months prior, just to assist with month-end processing, making sure that everything makes sense, as well as that all the expenses are in, all month-end journals are in, and it was more from like a work paper view. But what it sort of evolved to was more, we'd bring any of our reporting into Google Sheets as well to support it with dashboards. So at the time we had used Power BI, and Power BI at that time wasn't as easy to work with templates. So we just kept spending all this time on different reporting tools, but it wasn't giving us exactly what we wanted. So we wanted the flexibility of Excel or Google Sheets to do our reporting and to do our metrics, but we wanted the data updated and available straight away. So, and that's what G-Accon was giving to us. We also use the automated reports to send, month-to-date P&Ls, every Monday, as well as an AP listing and an AR listing. Things for what the revenue was for the businesses which had commissions in place, what the total revenue is for the week or for the month. So instead of all those emails, every time I had an email, because I was quite time poor, I would be like, how can I get rid of this email? Like, what can I do to stop this email coming through? I'd prefer to provide the information so that I don't even have to ask, because this is for, I guess, for team members who didn't have access to Xero, who the limitations on the user access is a bit tricky to manage. So if a team member doesn't have access to Xero and is constantly asking you for their, P&L for the month, it's so much easier to just set up a Google Sheet with their P&L that's customized for them, that just generates and is emailed out to them once a week, or just refreshes with a link that they do have. So those are the challenges. It just started saving time. So every time there was another request for a regular report, it was just a no-brainer to automate it and have it sent out. How often would you like it? and that way, if there is any issues with the P&L, there's no surprises at month end, because everybody already knows what to expect once the month end closes. So I that's what I liked about it, making the information available to everybody based on, what areas they need to focus on or what areas they're interested in. And that way the month end process became not just a finance team function, it became like a general business overview. There was no surprises. We knew how we were doing throughout the month. Snapshots were given. Any issues or omissions or anything that's been forgotten about had already been picked up at the time throughout the month. So I think it was just a lot more efficient that way. I mean, that's how I found it was very useful, and I still find uses for it every day, or new uses. So yeah.
No, that's awesome, Anita, and it speaks to the flexibility of G-Accon. Sonia, did you have any other questions or areas you wanted to dive into there?
No particular ones. I think Anita kind of touched on most of the things I was going to ask about anyways. So it's awesome. But yeah, just speaking to it, I mean, G-Accon, we are real versatile, and we're always adding updates and new features that could be used. So love to hear that you're tapping into each and one of those.
Yeah, and I know, like, a couple of the biggest ticket items on the agenda of once you get to talking to finance leaders who are running large businesses on Xero, one of the biggest things that is a bit of a pain point is user permissions, and the limit of, Xero isn't designed for, multiple different kinds of users. And so from a reporting perspective, to be able to engage different stakeholders without having to give them all access to everything in the ledger, and edit access to the ledger as well, is often ideal. So yeah, and then you combine that from a Mayday perspective with the other key challenge of Xero being multi-entity and dealing with intercompany transactions. It's a nice kind of combination where the two tools don't really tread on each other's toes at all, but they're often both relevant to a growing multinational, multi-entity, complex business on Xero. So I mean, Anita, Jonathan, any final thoughts? Anything that you wanted to share that you haven't already, with anyone who's tuning in here today, who's saying, "Hey, I don't have G-Accon in place. I don't have Mayday in place. I'm on Xero. We've got some of these challenges." I mean, anything else that you just kind of recommend or add, or thoughts to share?
I think one is, every time you do something once and you have to do it again, see if it can be automated or scheduled. Also perhaps have, internal meetings with what are the reports that everybody finds value in. And, I think it just gets more people involved once they've got, once you are confident the accounts are right, because everybody's working with them. So yeah, try and automate as much as you can and check that everything is balancing regularly, so it's not a month-end nightmare. That's it.
I think for myself, the one thing you mentioned, Jack, that I didn't touch on was the limitations in Xero. I mean, for our creditor creditor invoice approval, I mean, this is outside Mayday, but, you know, it's a similar problem where you've got multiple persons involved in approving invoices, depending on amount, depending on where the bill is for, what the bill is for. It's a similar process with the Mayday side of things. I mean, being able to allow a user for an entity to be able to process information that relates to all of the entities without having to create multiple user accounts. You know, I can set up the permissions so that that just flows through automatically, and I don't have to worry about what else is in there that they might be seeing. You know, that's a load off your mind when you're trying to control the traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you both for sharing your perspective. Sonia, if you're happy to jump over now to from a demo perspective, did you want to go first? Did you want to share screens, show everyone G-Accon, and then once you're finished, I'll jump in and do Mayday.
Sure thing. I do believe you have to stop for me to begin. All right, awesome.
No worries, go for it.
Sweet. So let me go ahead and awesome. All right, so with G-Accon, kind of as was previously talked about and mentioned here, you can pull all kinds of different reports. As you can see, I got a balance sheet here, age receivables. I'm just going to hop into the extension to show you guys how to do that right quick here. G-Accon for Xero, get accounting data reports. You can see, so you can run reports not only for a single entity, but also consolidated across multiple entities in Xero, should you want to do so. I'm going to just go ahead and run a simple consolidated report for us here, and then show you how to automate it. Just kind of tapping into a lot of what Anita pointed out in terms of making sure that this data is accessible, and not only that, but automated to make sure the latest and greatest info is being shared here. So as you can see with our consolidated reports, you can set up intercompany eliminations, sort by organization, or utilize both. Going just for a balance sheet by organization here. These are our parameters popping up per report, completely up to you and how you would like this report set up and how it would like to ultimately look and feel. Just going to run it on the default for us. All right. Let that run for us. Here we go. As you can see, I've got two different organizations connected in here, G-Accon Demo and then our demo company over here. So that all being said, we've got our report up and set to our liking. To automate it so that it is the latest and greatest information, we're just going to create a workflow. And then within this workflow, you can share the report with whoever you'd like, set alerts on the data within the report, and create backups of the report itself. Not to get into a full and entire demo here, I'm just going to keep it quite simple. But if you guys would like a demo, no worries. You can always reach us at acon.services.com or myself at syasd@acon.services. So we'll give this a demo workflow name. Operations log. So in the case of speaking on month-end processes, we can go ahead and set this to be monthly. Say the last day around 6 a.m. of each month. Alrighty, and then finding that balance sheet by organization. I think I have gone by it. Here we are. Gonna grab it, pull it on over. Awesome. Grab the report. Here's that sharing feature. So you can input any email you would like with the subject and message of your liking over here. It will send out this updated data each time this workflow runs on that monthly basis. And then you can see, kind of like Anita had mentioned, you can send it over not only as a spreadsheet, but also as an Excel file if that is something that you or clients are having a preference in. Alerts here, where you can set alerts on the particular sets of data within the report that you would like to keep an eye on as they update throughout time. Again, just for demo's sake here, I'm going to keep it short. We do include webhooks and the ability to use them in our workflows now. This is a newer feature here. Again, just going to keep it simple there, but please don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like more intensive demos on how to set these workflows up. Backups I'm going to turn on. That's just another feature that I know Xero kind of has a little bit of a limitation with, is backups and how they are created and then stored over long periods of time. Our backups are going to last forever, so until you choose to delete them. But getting that up and running, you can kind of see just how easy it is to create a report with G-Accon, have the items you'd like included in the report, and then set up that workflow to get it on an automated basis, and not only automated, but then shared with whoever you'd like. So that being it, I'm gonna hand it back on over to Jack, and you can take it away with a Mayday demo.
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. I was just going to say, I know sometimes as someone who demos our own software that, our customers often see stuff that we demo and think, oh, you don't really focus on that enough. I thought that was a great feature and you kind of brushed over it. So I thought, Anita, based on what you just saw there, was there anything in particular that you kind of like, look, this does get covered in the demo. It kind of gets covered a little bit, but is absolute like, do not overlook this if someone's watching this?
I think if anyone is new to G-Accon, as soon as they see that first screen, they panic. So they think it's a lot more difficult than it is, and it's not. It's definitely not as difficult as it might look, because I know when that is just in general what the feedback I get is. So I think it's really good to just handhold, go in, have a look, play with the the entities, some of the reports, just create the workflows. It's addictive. But yeah, you did cover a good snapshot of what's required.
Awesome. And just before I end the note on G-Accon's demo there, when you do first download the extension, you get 2 whole weeks to play with it for free. So like Anita said, I know it looks intimidating, looks like a lot at the beginning there. Definitely encourage anybody who is curious or interested, or maybe that struck a chord with anyone there, to go ahead and try that trial out and work with your own data. You'll get a much better feel for the tool.
Perfect. Cool. All right, I'll jump over share screens and take you all through Mayday now. So on screen, you should be able to see that there. We've got Mayday. So Mayday is a web-based platform. You integrate your Xero organizations, and then you can run all of your multi-entity intercompany transactions and manage your intercompany loan balances through here. So Mayday is designed for larger Xero businesses, beginning with the needs of those who are multi-entity. So we currently have 3 products: Balancer, Recharger, and Brag. Balancer is for managing intercompany loan balances and soon accounts receivable and AP balances as well within your group. We have Recharger for automating the running of intercompany recharges and calculations. And then we have Brag, which stands for bank reconciliation across the group, where you've got a bank feed item that relates to another Xero organization. So I'll quickly touch on all 3 of these, but as per Sonia's demo as well, we're just kind of touching the surface here. And so if you want a full demo of either of these products, definitely get in touch with us after today. So when I jump into Balancer, I have a snapshot of all of my intercompany loans as at the date that I want to view them at. I can change this date, view my loans any day of the week, any day of the month. Red loans are going to jump to the top, which basically symbolizes that they're out of balance, and green loans are those that are in balance. I can view my loans in a list or in a matrix view. Matrix is obviously really helpful as you grow and you become a 10, 20, 30, 40 entity business and you have a lot of these loans. But the key thing that we're trying to solve for here is, 1, visibility over your loan balances. Are they in balance? Because traditionally in Xero, I don't have that visibility. I have to log into multiple Xero files, go to multiple balance sheets just to see what is showing on my intercompany account. And then in the standard scenario, they're not going to balance. And so now I have to download 2 account transaction listing reports and manually piece together all my transactions in Excel or in a spreadsheet for me to then go ahead and reconcile them and get them back in balance. So Mayday flags for you, highlights them in red when they're out of balance, and makes it really easy to jump into any loan by going into the transaction details section to highlight where your differences are. So if I go into the month of May here, I can see we've got matched transactions, even across currency. But these dashes here flag for me immediately where are the needles in the haystack that are causing my loans to fall out of balance. So basically what we're doing with Balancer is, number 1, we're giving you visibility over your intercompany loans. Where are they at? Are they in balance? Number 2, making it really easy to identify where your discrepancies are, what's causing your loans to fall out of balance. And then 3, back in the dashboard, the ability to post both FX discrepancies or FX adjustments and interest as well. So within Mayday, you can set your interest rates. We calculate your interest on the daily balances, and you can post your interest straight through to Xero. Likewise for FX gains and losses. So if you've got multiple currencies involved, don't worry, Mayday can handle that as well. So that's Balancer at a very high level. We've then got Recharger. Recharger is all about the scenario where we've got one entity that wants to on-charge or recharge costs or revenues to one or more other entities in the group. So we might have a head entity that pays for their 0 subscription fees, and we want to split those 0 subscription fees across the group and recharge them out. So what I can do is go into my recharge rules, go to the HQ entity that's incurring the cost, create a new rule. I can have this rule at cost or cost plus, which means I have a markup on my recharge. In this case, we're just going to go at cost. I can then choose the account code that the cost is going to originate in. So I'm going to go with account 485 subscriptions. And I'm going to add a tracking category where the tracking category is Australia and the contact is 0. I'm now picking up a very specific set of transactions and saying I would like those transactions to be recharged to my Australian entity, and I'd like those to be put into their subscriptions account. So I'm going to call this HQ to AU0 subscriptions. Once I've saved that rule, easy as that, I can duplicate that rule, archive that rule, update that rule, do whatever I need to do each month. But when it comes time to run my recharges, I go to my calculation screen. I come across here, run a new calculation for the month, choose the month I want to run this for. Mayday then goes over all of the transactions through all of your different 0 organizations, figures out which transactions meet the criteria of your rules, automatically does the splitting and calculating of those recharges. So obviously the example I gave you was 100% of the cost went to one entity, but we can split those transactions to multiple locations. We can split them based on things like headcount and sales turnover, whatever you need. But ultimately, then we're going to draft up the postings for you into 0 as well. So if I go into an old month here, just to show you. So November, we've got all of our transactions listed out, and I can expand these. So I've got Mayday Australasia here. These are all the transactions that went through that entity. I've then got my Mayday Inc. account with all the transactions that went through there. I can hover over an amount to see how it's going to be recharged and split. I can override the rule that's being applied if I need to, if there's some nuanced situation this month that I want to change. But ultimately, this screen is just to give you peace of mind, to allow you to run your eyes over transactions, make sure you're happy with everything before it gets posted into 0. Then I go through the second order recharges before I get to the posting screen. So on the left-hand side, we have all of our different inter-entity pairings, all the different entities that are recharging to another entity. The green ticks tell us that they've already been posted to 0. This one here hasn't yet been posted. So I can change this from invoice and bill to a journal or back to invoice and bill. I can post it as draft or as authorized. I can choose the currency, override the FX rate. I can choose to group this by rule or split it out based on each transaction that's being recharged. I can set the tax rates on these transactions too. And if I go ahead and post this to 0, Mayday is going to post both sides. It's going to post an invoice in one side, a bill in the other side. Your intercompany accounts are going to stay in balance and your recharges are going to be done. So we've got a 60 entity group that do all of their recharging through Mayday. It used to be 3 days a month that they did this manually. It's now an hour to 3 hours of their time, just purely through having to review so many different transactions. That's really all the time that they need to spend doing this. So massive time-saving element with Recharger once you get up and running. The final feature here is Brag. So bank reconciliation across the group. This is for a situation where maybe we've got a central bank account in one entity that pays for stuff on behalf of other entities. Maybe we have bank accounts in multiple entities, but we've got a credit card that's only in one entity. Or maybe we have customers who work with multiple organizations within our group and sometimes pay into the wrong locations. And so we have to reconcile transactions from one bank feed to another organization. Brag is actually a a Chrome browser extension or a Microsoft Edge browser extension. You sign in once a day, and then you'll see the Mayday tab sitting right there inside your 0 bank feed. So if this amount here actually relates to a different organization, rather than having to reconcile it here and then remember to jump into a different 0 file, locate the bill, mark that as paid to the intercompany account, which inevitably doesn't happen, and we inevitably end up with an out of balance intercompany, what I can do now is use the Mayday tab to map this transaction to existing bills that are sitting in that organization. Or if there is no existing bill sitting there, I can create the relevant transaction right from within 0 without having to leave the screen. So maybe I know it's an advertising cost. I can add that transaction, click continue. Mayday will then go off, create the relevant bill for you, mark that as paid to the intercompany account, and then pre-fill this create tab here with everything that you need to just click OK and reconcile this side. So both sides reconciled all in one action, no need to leave this 0 organization. And then of course you've got a reconciliation log inside of Mayday, so you can always track back any transactions that you've reconciled through here. So that is a quick fire run through of Mayday, Balancer for your intercompany balances and loans, Recharger for your intercompany recharging automation, and Brag for reconciling transactions across the group. Jonathan, be very keen to hear if there's anything in that I didn't spend enough time focusing on, or that you think is worth shouting out a little bit further in terms of the experience you've had using the product.
It's the whole thing together. I mean, I can't point at a single thing and say this is where it's saved us, hours of time. But Recharger and Bragg together, massive change for us. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm glad there wasn't anything that stood out as being completely miscommunicated, so that's good. Look, guys, I guess from my perspective, from Sonia's perspective, we just wanted to say a massive thank you for coming today and for registering for the session, which is why we've both got a bit of an offer on screen for you. So if you're keen to check out either Mayday or G-Accon, there's a special offer there and a code there for you that will last for a limited time and give you up to 12 months of benefit. I guess while we're still here, we still have a little bit of time. So any questions you've got, either for Jonathan, Anita, myself, or Sonia, please feel free to chuck them in the Q&A section of Zoom. Happy to answer any questions you have, anything you saw in the product demos that you want to know more about, or any personal experiences you want to hear from Anita or Jonathan that might be relevant. We'll hang around, but yeah, if you don't have any questions, thank you all for coming. I hope that was useful and beneficial, and yeah, hope to see you again soon for another session sometime. Cool. All right, doesn't look like we've got any questions flowing through. So Anita, Jonathan, massive thanks from my side. Really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences.
Yeah, and thank you from G-Accon. Obviously, we appreciate all of you guys, Mayday included, you too, Jack, for getting this all together. It was great to be a part of it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks
all
very
right.
much.
All good. Okay, leave you to it. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.